The European badger exists in a world that most humans never see. While forests, fields, and hedgerows stretch across the surface, the true domain of the badger lies beneath them, carved slowly and deliberately into the soil. It is an animal defined not by speed or spectacle, but by endurance, memory, and an intimate relationship with the land itself. Where other mammals move across territory, the badger inhabits it from the inside out. The evolutionary story of the European badger begins millions of years ago within the mustelid family, a lineage known for adaptability and resilience. While many mustelids evolved toward agility in pursuit, the ancestors of the badger followed a different path. Environmental instability, repeated climate shifts, and fluctuating food availability favored individuals that could dig, store energy, and exploit a wide range of resources. Over time, this pressure shaped a mammal uniquely equipped for long-term survival rather than short-term dominance. The badger's body reflects this evolutionary philosophy. It is low, wide, and heavily built, with a center of gravity that keeps it stable during excavation. Its forelimbs are thick with muscle, anchored by strong shoulder bones that allow sustained digging without fatigue. The claws are long, curved, and extraordinarily durable, capable of breaking through compacted soil and dense root systems. These physical traits are not accidental, they represent a lifetime of adaptation to a subterranean existence. The fur of the European badger is coarse and dense, forming a protective barrier against cold, moisture, and abrasion within tunnels. The unmistakable black and white facial stripes are among the most iconic markings in European wildlife. Far from camouflage, these markings function as bold visual signals. They communicate confidence and deter aggression, advertising that this is not an animal easily displaced or intimidated. The badger does not flee instinctively, it stands its ground. Primarily nocturnal, the badger experiences its environment through senses optimized for darkness. Vision plays a limited role, while smell dominates perception. A badger's olfactory system is finely tuned, capable of detecting earthworms beneath the soil surface and identifying familiar individuals through scent alone. Hearing complements this system, allowing the animal to monitor threats and activity above ground while remaining partially concealed. At the heart of the badger's life lies the sett, an underground structure that represents one of the most complex burrow systems created by any mammal. These setts are not temporary shelters but long-term residences, often maintained and expanded over generations. A single main sett can contain dozens of entrances, interconnected tunnels, nesting chambers, and designated waste areas. Some are centuries old, passed down like inherited property from one lineage to the next. Inside these underground networks, the European badger reveals a level of social organization that challenges its solitary reputation. Badgers live in social groups known as clans, typically composed of related individuals who share a central sett while maintaining individual foraging territories. Social bonds are reinforced through grooming, scent exchange, and cooperative maintenance of the sett. Hygiene is taken seriously, waste is deposited in latrine pits far from sleeping chambers, reducing parasite load and disease risk. This attention to cleanliness is not trivial. It reflects a level of behavioral sophistication that supports long-term group living in confined spaces. Disease can devastate subterranean populations, and the badger's sanitation behavior represents a powerful evolutionary response to this threat. Dietary adaptability further defines the badger's success. Although often classified as carnivorous, the European badger is a true omnivore. Earthworms form a substantial portion of its diet, particularly in moist soils where they are abundant. Insects, larvae, amphibians, small mammals, fruits, roots, cereals, and carrion supplement this base. Seasonal shifts in food availability are met with flexibility rather than migration, allowing badgers to remain within familiar territories year-round. Through its feeding and digging activities, the European badger plays a critical ecological role. Soil aeration improves water infiltration and nutrient distribution. Disturbed ground creates opportunities for plant colonization and supports diverse invertebrate communities. Sett entrances become microhabitats used by reptiles, amphibians, insects, and plants. When abandoned, these burrows provide shelter for foxes, rabbits, and other mammals. The badger's influence radiates outward, shaping ecosystems indirectly yet profoundly. Reproductive strategy in the European badger is unusually sophisticated. Delayed implantation allows mating to occur throughout the year while timing birth to coincide with optimal environmental conditions. Embryonic development pauses until winter, ensuring that cubs are born in late winter or early spring when survival chances improve. This strategy reflects a deep evolutionary understanding of seasonal risk. Cubs are born blind and helpless deep within the sett, entirely dependent on their mother. For weeks, they remain underground, developing strength and coordination before their first emergence. Learning is gradual. Mothers introduce young badgers to foraging slowly, guiding them along established paths and teaching food recognition through experience rather than instinct alone. Juvenile mortality remains high, especially in landscapes fragmented by human infrastructure. Roads intersect traditional badger paths, leading to frequent fatalities. Habitat fragmentation isolates clans, reducing genetic exchange and long-term resilience. Yet despite these pressures, badgers persist, relying on familiarity, memory, and incremental adaptation rather than rapid change. Human relationships with European badgers have long been complex. In folklore, they were symbols of determination and quiet wisdom. In modern contexts, they are often misunderstood, blamed for agricultural damage or disease transmission without consideration of broader ecological systems. Scientific research increasingly emphasizes that badgers are not the problem, but part of a larger, interconnected web. The European badger does not seek expansion. It does not conquer new territory aggressively. Instead, it maintains what it knows, reinforcing and repairing its underground world year after year. This strategy, slow and deliberate, has allowed the species to persist through centuries of environmental upheaval. When night falls and the surface world grows quiet, the badger emerges, following paths etched into memory. Digging, foraging, reinforcing a landscape unseen. Beneath Europe's soil, its tunnels form a living archive of endurance. The European badger is not merely an animal of forests and hedgerows, it is a living engineer of the underground world. Beneath the quiet landscapes of Europe lies a vast hidden architecture shaped by generations of badgers. These structures, known as setts, are among the most complex burrow systems created by any mammal on Earth. Some setts have been continuously inhabited for over a century, expanding slowly year by year like underground cities. A single main sett can contain dozens of entrances, multiple chambers, ventilation shafts, and nesting rooms lined meticulously with dry grass and leaves. Badgers regularly replace bedding material, dragging fresh vegetation underground with a level of care that rivals nest-building birds. This attention to hygiene reduces parasites and disease, contributing to the species' remarkable longevity. Badgers are intensely territorial, yet paradoxically social. A clan may consist of 2 to 15 individuals sharing a territory that can span several square kilometers. Within this clan structure, cooperation is balanced by hierarchy. Dominant individuals often control breeding rights, but food sharing and collective defense are common. When threatened, badgers do not flee easily. They stand their ground with low growls, raised hackles, and an intimidating display of strength. Despite their stocky appearance, European badgers are capable diggers of astonishing speed. Their forelimbs, powered by dense muscle and reinforced by long, curved claws, can move compacted soil and stone with relentless efficiency. This digging ability is not only defensive but ecological. Abandoned badger setts become shelters for foxes, rabbits, reptiles, and even owls. In this way, the badger acts as a keystone species, reshaping habitats far beyond its own needs. Diet is where the European badger reveals its true adaptability. Though commonly associated with earthworms, badgers are opportunistic omnivores. In spring and summer, they consume insects, larvae, amphibians, small mammals, birds' eggs, fruit, berries, and cereals. Earthworms, however, remain a dietary cornerstone, especially during wet nights when worms surface in abundance. A single badger can consume hundreds of worms in one foraging session, guided by acute hearing and an exceptional sense of smell. Badgers forage mostly at night, emerging from their setts at dusk. Their movement is deliberate and efficient, following well-worn paths known as badger runs. These paths, passed down through generations, form an invisible network through woodlands and fields. Farmers often mistake these trails for animal tracks without realizing they are part of a centuries-old system. Reproduction in European badgers is biologically fascinating. They practice delayed implantation, meaning fertilized eggs do not immediately develop. Instead, embryos remain dormant for months, allowing births to coincide with favorable environmental conditions in late winter or early spring. This reproductive strategy maximizes survival chances for cubs, which are born blind, helpless, and entirely dependent on maternal care. Badger cubs emerge from the sett for the first time after several weeks, cautiously exploring the outside world under the watchful eyes of adults. Play behavior is frequent and intense, involving wrestling, chasing, and mock fighting. These activities are not merely recreational, they are critical for developing social bonds, coordination, and survival skills. Seasonal behavior plays a major role in badger life. Unlike true hibernators, European badgers enter periods of torpor during harsh winters. They reduce activity, relying on fat reserves built up during autumn. In regions with milder climates, badgers may remain active year-round, adjusting foraging behavior based on food availability. Human interaction with European badgers is complex and often controversial. In some regions, badgers are protected by strict wildlife laws due to historical persecution. In others, they are viewed through the lens of agricultural conflict, particularly concerning bovine tuberculosis. This has led to heated debates between conservationists, scientists, and farming communities. Research increasingly suggests that habitat management and vaccination strategies are more effective than population control measures. Culturally, the European badger occupies a unique place in folklore and literature. From medieval symbolism representing stubbornness and resilience to modern portrayals as wise forest dwellers, badgers have long captured human imagination. Their presence in children's stories often contrasts sharply with their real-world toughness and survival prowess. From an evolutionary standpoint, badgers belong to the mustelid family, which includes otters, weasels, martens, and wolverines. Among these, the European badger stands out for its size, social complexity, and digging specialization. Fossil evidence indicates that badger-like animals have existed for millions of years, adapting steadily to changing climates and landscapes. Climate change presents new challenges. Altered rainfall patterns affect earthworm populations, while habitat fragmentation disrupts traditional territories. Roads pose a significant mortality risk, as badgers often follow habitual paths regardless of modern obstacles. Wildlife crossings and conservation planning have become critical tools in reducing these losses. Despite these threats, the European badger remains resilient. Its intelligence, adaptability, and social cooperation give it a survival advantage in a rapidly changing world. Each set tells a story not only of one animal but of generations, persistence, and quiet dominance beneath our feet. As night falls across European countryside, the badger emerges once more. Unseen by most, unheard by many, it continues a rhythm older than civilization itself, digging, foraging, raising young, and shaping ecosystems from the shadows. The European badger does not demand attention. It earns respect through endurance.